Yeah, I gotta get the team set up on
All right, I'm gonna get started. Girls, can you move up to be here? Okay. Boys, up in the front, not in the back.
Should we move back to the...
No, you're fine. You're fine. So, why did I move you up to the front?
Because we're special.
Because we're the ones going.
You're the ones going, and I'm not just talking to your parents. And that's an important thing for you guys all to understand. Because I will be talking about a lot of things that relate directly to you. And it's going to be important that you listen, and that you just don't tune out and expect your parents to take all the notes. Now, you notice I am videotaping this, and if you want to listen to me, then you can later on. But I am starting on time. I don't want to wait for everyone to be here, so I want to start on time and end on time. And at the end, one of the things that will be happening is the fundraising committee will just make a little presentation and hand out some information to everyone. So to start off with, let me just talk to you a little bit about the history of this trip. The club was started back in 1996. Were you alive back then?
I was not.
You were not alive. Were you alive back then? No. So that was, what, a good 10 years before you guys, right? And when the club was first started, I was not part of the club, but there was this special connection with the Dutch and how we focus on the Dutch way of developing players. And that was a major part of the club. And in that year, what happened was that the club director at the time said, I'm bringing the 14-year-olds, the U14s, to Holland for a trip. And so we've been doing this for a long time. You know, 96. So they went in 96?
23 years.
23 years, good job. And so the interesting thing about this is this trip has evolved quite a bit. Okay, when they first did it, they worked through what they call third party, an organization that puts these things together. Okay, and honestly, a lot of these third parties, what they do is a cookie cutter. They're about making money. They want to make money, and what they were doing is they were putting together programs, putting together trips, and we would go on them. And every year, I was like, I like that. That's good, but this I don't like, or this I don't like. And so the next year, they did it. Exact same program. And my issue was, so I had problems with one organization, so that was called Eurosport Ring, not Eurosport, but Eurosport Ring. I decided to go through another group called Harvard Sports Tours. They were an organization that did all these same sort of things, but for college students. Awful experience with them. After 1 year, it was a terrible experience. We were not happy with the product they put together. Then we went and worked through this international travel services. They're actually based here in South Burlington. Decent experience. Still, we weren't getting what we wanted. And at that was about 12 years ago, I made the decision to just say, we're doing this ourselves. We're not working through a third party. I'm coordinating it. I know exactly what I want. I know the coaches, I know the clubs, I know what I want, and each year we're going to have control over it. And so I worked through a guy that I knew in Holland, and he and his son do all the coordination for us on that side. I tell him exactly what I want, how I want things changed, and so it's really a trip that we coordinate as an organization. And each year, my goal is to make it better and better and better. And each year we add something new. So last year, a new addition, and I'll get to what the trip entails. Last year we decided we had our first weekends always with Ajax. Always a great experience to be on those grounds with those coaches, watching those games, professional games, seeing the academy, seeing all that's offered there. I approached PSV Eindhoven, asked them to do the same thing, so now we added that as a new thing. So that's on Monday, they'll spend their day at PSV Eindhoven. being trained on their training grounds, getting to know what their philosophy is, seeing their professional team play. So those are, each year we try to add something new and new and new. Now girls, tell me something. Do you know anything about Dutch soccer? What do you know?
They do a lot of triangles.
They do a lot of triangles. No, I mean at the national, the international level. Do you know anything about the Dutch? Scott, do you know anything about the Dutch? No one knows anything about the Dutch. Anything special about the Dutch? What?
They pass a lot.
Yeah. How was their national team? Can you tell me anything about the national team? Do you know anything about their national team? Ladies, come on.
The ladies made it to the finals.
They made it to the finals, okay? That's a huge, huge thing. Now, do you know where most of those players play? Do you think they play in Holland? And it's the interesting thing. I think if you went and looked at their roster, maybe 2, I think, actually play professionally in Holland. Does that mean they don't have professional soccer, women's soccer in Holland? No. It's just not as developed, okay? But Ajax as a team, PSV as a team. Men's side, we know their history. Do you know anything about the Dutch? How many World Cups have they won? Do you know? Take a wild guess.
No, off the top of my head, probably 1 or 2.
They've actually won 0. 1-0. They've won the Euros once. And they've had, club soccer-wise, the Dutch have had great teams. The Ajax has won the European championships. Feyenoord's won, PSV's won. So they had success at the club level, but never at the international level. One of the things, new things that I'm really trying to establish is trying to get into the girls' academies and the girls' professional programs. That's the new thing that I'm really trying to do. Things take time over there. I can't just go to knock on a door and door opens and all of a sudden something happens. It's not like that. It takes time to build trust. It takes time to build sort of a relationship with them. But that's the next thing I'm really, really trying to make happen. Because Ajax has a professional team. They have a youth academy. It's hard to get access to it. So that's our new thing that I've been trying to do. Let me get to some details. So we always do this trip over April vacation. So for kids in the Burlington area, Greater Burlington, the Chittenden area, Chittenden County, we always do it over the April break. So that the actual dates that we will be traveling, we'll be leaving on Friday, April 17th, and we'll be returning on Sunday, April 26th. And we always, we haven't always done this, but this has been something that I've been doing for the past 10 years. We always leave out of Montreal. We fly out of Montreal. We always fly KLM, which is the Royal Dutch Airlines. It's a direct flight from Montreal to Amsterdam. I book a bus to get you from that parking lot right to the terminal. So all those logistical pieces are all set. And we would leave here that Friday at noon. So unfortunately, you guys have to get a little out of school. Maybe you can go in the morning and then rush here so you can get on the bus and get to the airport on time. But we leave on that Friday, and I won't get into the details of the transportation, but that bus brings us right to the terminal. We always plan with a big cushion, so we usually get there and have some time to waste, but it's better to be safe than sorry with that. We fly directly. When we arrive on the ground, we hit the ground and run. And I'll talk with you a bit about the schedule. On the return, we leave on a Sunday. Now, there's been times in the past where we've left, the flight back has been a morning flight, but the connections that we have now make it very, very reasonable. It's an afternoon flight, so kids get to sleep in on that Sunday, so they can pack up, clean up their rooms, have a little time together to get ready for the trip, because it's a long travel day. But we get to the airport and we're back here. We're back in Montreal around 5 o'clock, back in this parking lot by by 8 o'clock that night on Sunday, April 26th. You can talk with your parents on whether you want to go to school the next day, but that's way ahead. We have time to talk about that. The basic schedule, and now this probably won't sink in entirely, but it's a pretty soccer-dominated itinerary. Although over the past years, since we've started running this, we've injected some cultural experiences that we think are really important, and what we feel has really enhanced the trip that we organize. But generally, when we hit the ground, when we land in Amsterdam, our faithful tour guides, Jos and Koen, they'll meet us at the airport. You guys will get to know them very well. Koen is actually a former professional player, played for MVV. We might actually see MVV play on the street. And Jos actually used to play for Fortuna Sittard, which is also an Eredivisie professional team. They both used to play professionally. Now they do these types of things as a business. They'll meet us in the airport, and most groups, what they do is they take you to your hotel, they put you in your hotel room, you take a shower, you go to sleep, and you waste an entire day. We're not going to do that. Okay, we're not going to do that. We hit the ground running, and we go straight to Ajax. And when we go to Ajax, it's meant to be not something where we sit down and listen to talking heads. We get there, the first thing we do, we get you on the training grounds. We get you in a training session. So the head of the youth academy at Ajax will be running a session with you. Eddie Van Skyke, brilliant trainer. He'll be running a training session with you, and it'll be just outside the stadium. And I brought my iPad here with a lot of pictures, so you can actually see afterwards the pictures. But we'll actually have like an hour and a half, 2-hour training session. It'll be he'll talk a bit about the Dutch, the Ajax way, the principles of the Ajax way, and then he'll run you through a training session that they do with their youth academy. Some of these sessions, like, that looks kind of familiar. Why do you think they would look familiar? Like, you'll do a training session, you'll be like, God, I feel like I've done that before. Why do you think that?
Did you do some of them?
Yeah. Do you think the coaches go over there and they shut off? Do they just go over and just say, okay, all the coaches, all these kids are taken care of by these Dutch coaches? What do you think the coaches are doing? You'll notice coaches have something like this. What do you think's in here?
Paces, so you can write.
They write notes. They'll write. They spend their whole time jotting down, I like this idea, how can I adapt it? So it's a learning opportunity for the coaches as well. So when you get there, you'll see some things that are familiar, but then you'll see some new things. After that, after having a training session, we'll go and we'll have a nice lunch at a restaurant right on the training grounds there. And it'll be a typical lunch that you would have be some soup, a sandwich, stuff like that. Then after that, we'll go and we'll tour the training grounds. The training grounds is at the youth academy. You'll be able to see some of the youth teams playing. This past year, they had the Futures tournament, which was the best, basically the best U17 teams in the world. So Boca Juniors came over. Dortmund was there. Tottenham was there. Real Madrid, Bayern Munich was there. They had a Japanese club there. They had Anderlecht from Belgium was there. So all some top teams there. So you'll be able to go and you'll actually see some of their kids playing against other youth academies. After that, we want you to. I'll take you around. I'll show you the grounds. I'll show you what the training grounds look like. Can you imagine if a Dutch kid comes here and we showed them our training grounds? What would they see right now? They'd see, what would they see down there? Concrete. There, it's a little different. You'll be in awe. You'll be in awe. But after that, we'll walk from the youth academy. We'll just walk. It's about a 10-minute walk to the stadium. We'll do tour of the stadium, then we'll go to the pro shop. After that, we'll head back to the youth hostel. We'll have dinner. We'll have some downtime. We'll have an opportunity just to settle in. So that night will be pretty mellow. The next day, normally what we've done the next day is we'll do the Anne Frank house that morning. And if you haven't read the Diary of Anne Frank, you need to do it. It's not an option. You need to do it. And I'm not just talking to the girls, I'm talking to the boys too. Because we will be going to Anne Frank house. It's very important that you spend some time, and we'll talk about this, learning about your family heritage, maybe learning a little bit about sort of the history of Holland, some of the major events that happened over the past century in Europe that might make going to the Anne Frank house significant. And we will spend time on this trip talking about those things. But we usually do Anne Frank in the morning before it gets too crazy. Then we do a little walking tour through the city. And then on that afternoon, on that Sunday afternoon, we usually go to a professional match. Now, that's actually an international weekend, so there's actually no games on that first weekend. There might be some second division games that we can go to. So we're right now we're working on adjusting the schedule a little bit so we can see a game on that weekend. And then we normally, when we go to a match, we'll either see Ajax, Feyenoord, or PSV. What I'm really arguing for is that on the following weekend we go to Feyenoord. There's nothing like going to a Feyenoord match. And I've been to Anfield, I've been to all the big stadiums. There's nothing like going to Feyenoord. So the hope is Feyenoord on the last weekend. They play, I think they play, Groningen. They play Groningen. So that's that Sunday. On Monday, that's when we go and we have our day at PSV. So Eindhoven is it's about an hour and a half drive from Amsterdam. We'll go to the grounds there. You'll get to see PSV and see what their training grounds are like. What's it like for their youth? What's it like for the professional academy? You'll have a training session. We'll have lunch there. We'll tour the grounds, learn about their philosophy, how it might be different or the same as Ajax. And then they always have their own professional. They have the real stadium, and then they have a smaller stadium at their training grounds. And we'll watch their second team, their youth team that plays in the second professional division. We'll watch their team play up close. It's like from here to there. That's how close it is to watching the game. We will have a chance, like at Ajax, we'll get a chance to go and tour the stadium so you can see what that stadium's like, and also go to the pro shop. Pro shop's going to be a hit for everyone. You're probably pretty excited about that, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're already saving your money for it.
Of course I am.
I can imagine. After that, this is when I think it really gets a little more intimate, because we have, since 1996, we've had the same coaches working with our kids. So for Brad, for Stage, for all those coaches, when they went on this trip back when they were your age, they had Bear or Leo. They actually had both Bear and Leo. This past year, Bear worked with the boys and Leo worked with the girls. And that's when on Tuesday, that's when you get introduced to these coaches. And I'm going to talk when I do sessions with you, I'm going to talk a lot about the Dutch way and some of the things that might be a little hard to get used to at first. And I'll explain that more later. But these are master coaches. You know, they were part of KMVB, which is the Dutch national coaching staff. Their responsibility was to oversee the education of all the coaches in the 70s and the 80s. They did all the coaching education. They did a lot of the scouting and identification of top talent during that time, which was, I want to say that was a golden era. And they actually still, like Bear still does scouting for MVV and for Fortuna Sittard. So, these guys are still involved. We will also have 2 other coaches working with them, but they are going to be our 2 primary coaches running things. We've had a whole list of new coaches that we've been bringing in, but generally they're going to be the 2 anchor trainers for you. You'll get to know them very, very well. The way it'll work is on that Tuesday when we get to our program, the boys will be in a little village outside of Eindhoven. The girls will be down in Maastricht on that day. In the morning you'll wake up, you'll have breakfast. After breakfast, you'll go get changed. After you change, you're going to meet down in the youth hostel. You're going to jump on your bike for the first time. You're going to bike. You're going to bike your way to training session. Now, when we talk about a bike ride, we're not talking about a long bike ride. It's not like 20 miles, but it's going to be like a 10-minute bike ride. Sometimes that changes. But you bike about 10 minutes. You get to the training grounds. You'll have like a 2-hour training session in the morning. After that, you'll get back on your bike. We'll bike back to the youth hostel. We'll have lunch. We'll have a little downtime. Then you'll jump back on your bike right back to the training grounds. And it's always on the same field. You'll have another 2-hour training session. You get back on your bike back to the youth hostel. You'll have a little snack. We'll put together something for you to eat, and then you jump right back on your bike, and you bike to a club. You play a match. After the match, we have social time, where we go to their canteen. Do you know what a canteen is? Ever heard that phrase, canteen? Has anybody been to a Waitsfield? And what's a canteen? You get ice cream. Now, this is not a place where you get ice cream. This is a place where people go, and before games, during games, after games, you can go there. You can actually see the field that the kids are training on or playing on, and that's where people have social times. You will be given something like a soft drink or some juice after the game, maybe a little snack of something, and you'll have about an hour just hanging out with the kids, getting to know them in some small way. After that, you get on your bike, you bike home. A lot of biking. So that is what will be a traditional day on that Tuesday, on that Thursday, and on that Friday. And each game will be a little bit different. What we try to do is we try to put you up against some good competition, but also against some competition that is inviting, that is excited to be with you, that maybe some games that you can find some success. It's a lot easier, I'll be honest, it's a lot easier to actually get quality games for the boys, a little bit tougher on the girls' side. So what will happen on the girls' side for games, what we've done is we've had matches with some clubs in that area that are good, or we'll play their regional team. So if you think about some of you play ODP, they have regional teams for ODP.
Yeah.
Well, we'll play their regional teams. And most of those kids play in Germany or in Belgium. We played like Borussia Mönchengladbach, which is a Bundesliga academy. I might be going to Standard Liège. We might be going back to Standard Liège, which is a Belgium club. So we might have some games like that for the girls. But those days sound pretty busy, don't they? It's pretty busy. When I hesitated and talked about the biking, I'll explain the biking a little bit, because that's one of the great things. We used to be, instead of getting on bikes, we would get in a bus, big like premier buses. You'd bus to the training grounds, bus back, and when you're in that bus in that contained area, you are not absorbing anything about your surroundings. You're not getting a real taste of the area that you're in, what the country is like there. So we have taken it to a little bit of an extreme. We like to, so maybe on the first day, instead of just biking straight to the training grounds, we'll bike through the village or bike through another town. Like Maastricht, you'll bike through the cobblestone streets there to get to the training grounds. You will bike to Belgium. That sounds like a long ways, but it's literally a mile from your training grounds. So we'll bike into a village into Belgium. We'll do one trip to biking trip to a castle where you get to have castles, beautiful view up on these cliffs overlooking this area. You will bike up the second highest mountain in Holland. Now that when I say that, anybody watch the Tour de France? And no one watches the Tour de France? We're not talking about biking up the Alps here. We're not talking about biking up the Alps. Do you know what the second highest mountain in Vermont is? I don't either. But what do you think is a big mountain? Do you know the highest mountain in Vermont? Not Mansfield. How high is it? Do you know? Just take a wild guess. You have an idea? Does anybody know?
2,000 feet.
That's more than that.
I literally, okay, I have no idea.
Okay. But pretty big mountain out here, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it compares to that mountain?
Well, no, are you recording it?
Do you think the second highest? I'm sorry. Mount Mansfield is just out this
Oh,
this
okay.
window.
So how was I? What?
How do you think the mountains compare there to here? Have you ever seen pictures of Holland? Flat. In fact, a large portion of this country is below sea level. So what we're talking about is not a big mountain, but it's a good bike. And it's a beautiful view. It's a wonderful bike. But those will be things that will happen, like on a bike ride. So it might not be just that 10-minute bike to the training session. We'll have those 10-minute bikes to the training session, but it could be a little bit more. How many here feel super confident on a bike? So some of you that don't feel super confident. If you don't, this is what I'm going to ask you to do. Put in the training and do it now. Do some biking. And I'm not saying go out and bike 20 miles. What I am saying is try to get a little more confident on it, because that's the major way of getting around once we get there is by bike. So you want to make sure you are confident on a bike. What we decided to do, we used to do Monday through Friday, it's just soccer. But we decided to change that. We felt the kids were getting really fried and the quality of the training was just dropping towards the end. Still, they're going to get tired, but it's going to be demanding. But we thought that giving them the middle day, the Wednesday off was a good thing. So what we did is we put together a day of basically for the kids to do some cultural things. Now part of that is moving from one place to the other. The boys will then move to Maastricht and the girls will move to the village outside of Eindhoven. And you guys will get adjusted. But during the day, what it will involve is a few key things. One thing is both groups will do this thing called the Kasematten. The Kasematten is these underground tunnels, okay? And they were basically a fortification during times when their city would get invaded. And what they would do is they built this tunnel network under the city so that they knew how to get from one place to the other while the people that were chasing them get lost. So we actually do this, it's a great exercise. The boys group will mix you up into 2 or 3 different groups. You have to get from one part of the city to the other part of the city. And along the way, there's 10 to 12 tasks that you have to do that will help either lessen your time or lengthen your time. And you have to do these tasks so you can move on. And there'll be a winner and there'll be a loser. Do the same thing with the girls. And I think it's a really cool thing just to like most people don't know about this. You wouldn't know that there's this huge network of tunnels underneath the city. So it's an interesting thing to do, but it's also a really great team building exercise.
Does the winner of the Tom bring the yellow jersey?
I don't know if we'll bring yellow jerseys, but I don't know what we've done. There's certainly bragging rights that go on. You'll actually hear some kids. Emma, I think last week was bragging about the Casamata. Like her team won. Her team won. She was bragging about it last week.